Hey there, welcome to Elevate Real Estate, the podcast where we spill the beans on all things real estate from the highs to the lows and everything in between. Whether you're just dipping your toes in or you're seasoned pro looking for that extra push, Elevate Real Estate is real talk from a new investor, me, Diana Andes.
And me, Lila Kaplan, a seasoned investor, where we ask questions, share ideas, and help each other grow. Get ready to elevate your real estate game and let's climb and prosper together.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 5 of our podcast. I can't believe we were already recorded. Yeah, this is our fifth one. So exciting. So in our past episodes, we've talked about fix and flips. We've talked about short-term rentals, buy and holds. And today we just want to bring it back to the real estate because I think it's a hot topic. You know, our buyers are entering the market again, and just kind of talk about what's going on, what we're seeing here in New Jersey and what we're seeing in Colorado as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And also a happy Wear Red Day, guys. Wear your red to support the Heart Foundation, Diana. Anyway, yes, absolutely. And we just kind of want to dive into what the market looks like from the east to almost the west coast because you can't get a good deal until you get it under contract, right? So we just want to dive in a little bit further and, tell you what the market looks like.
Yeah. So, in New Jersey, the market, especially where we are in Somerset County area, the market's still really hot. And I know it's the similar trends of where you are too, Lila. But I have noticed with the rates dropping a little bit, so many buyers that I was working with even 1 or 2 years ago that I haven't heard from for a while. They just recently been calling me and like, hey, Diana, I saw the rates are dropping. I'm ready to start looking again. And what's interesting is because, the rates drop, so more buyers are entering the market. But the great thing is that during this time period, they were also able to save a little bit more money. So even though the houses appraised, I'm seeing their buy box is a lot higher than it was before.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's been a busy January for sure.
Yeah, and same thing as in Colorado as well. So just to give you some stats, as of last week, we had about 4,700 active units for listing right now, or that are listed right now. But to be in a balanced market in Colorado, we need about 19,000 to 20,000 listings. We
Hmm.
have more properties going under contract than property coming live online. So last week we put 800 units under contract, but we only had 749 units coming into the market. So as you can see that discrepancy, there's just lack of inventory, and with the interest rate coming down, we are getting a lot more buyers coming, off the fence and looking at properties right now. And the biggest challenge for us as realtors is how do we help these buyers find their, home or investments that they're looking for. So, what are you doing that's unique, Diana?
Yeah, so what I've been doing now is every time I have a new buyer client, we sit down and actually have a buyer consultation. I have a booklet, it's that just kind of outlines the process so that they're aware of what the steps are. But then we really talk about what's going on in the market and how do we, I don't want to waste their time going out and looking at things without having a realistic expectation of what a good offer needs to look like. So one of the things that we've been doing in our office, which is really great, is that those agents who are just listing agents, they've been sharing like what do the offers look like, which ones are winning. And it's really helpful for me because then when I'm working with my clients, I have data to say like, hey, look at this. In December, maybe they only got 5 offers. Now in January, this last house got this many offers. Um, Everyone's doing things like waiving appraisals or limiting inspections, but what else are they doing to make their offer stand out? So I think that conversation is just super important for me to have with buyers right at the beginning of their home search. How about you,
Okay.
Lila?
Yeah, I mean, there's only so much you can do when you have market full of buyers, and especially if there's a beautiful property in a great location, it's going to sell, and it's going to sell very quickly within a couple of days. And so some of the strategies that I've used for my clients, and especially if you don't want to, change your price stance, right? Everyone has a budget. and we might not necessarily want to move up in price. So the things that I have done with my clients so far in multiple offers are shorten the closing time. So instead of 30-day closing, we're looking at 10 to 15 days, which is actually pretty common here in Denver, Colorado.
Mm.
Um, yeah, we are also, getting guarantees from lenders, getting the full-on pre-approval, not just being
Mhm.
pre-qualified, but pre-approval before we even submit the offer, so that we can tell the seller, hey, we've already gone through the process. There shouldn't be any issues, and we're going to close smoothly and we're going to close quickly.
Mhm.
And the other thing that I would say is I would never advise my clients to waive inspections, especially if there are new investor or new buyer, home buyer. So what I do is I put a contingency for inspection, but with a thought that we're not going to ask for anything, right? So it's for informational only, rather than to object any inspection items. So those are the three main things that I've been working with my buyers on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to clarify, I also agree that they should absolutely do their inspections. It's just understanding that you put a clause in there saying maybe we're going to limit the inspection requests to only structural or environmental.
Right.
And one of the new things is just this way that the sellers feel confident that even though they're getting this offer price, they're not going to end up having to lower it, I don't know, $10,000 because the buyer wants to
Right.
make all these requests.
Yeah.
But I wanted to just circle back where you said about closing dates and
Hmm.
times.
Yeah.
Yeah, typical closing is about 45 days in the past, but definitely like if it's vacant or the seller already has somewhere to go, we want to shorten that closing time.
Yeah.
And but it could also work opposite because there are some cases where in our town, oh, the sellers are they're building something else that's more appropriate for their next chapter in their life, or they're
Right.
moving out of state and they need that extra time.
Yep.
So it's important to work with a good real estate agent who will have those conversations with the selling agent and just say, what does your seller need, right?
Yeah,
Things like,
absolutely. Yeah,
yeah,
I think you're so right, Diana. The terms for the seller is so important. Is for us to understand what the sellers need, and then how do we accommodate that the best as possible and be also more competitive. So, like you said, some seller may need more time rather than leave very quickly. In that case, we typically trying to do either a post occupancy agreement, where the seller becomes the renter and the buyer becomes the landlord.
right.
So in Colorado, we're able to do a post occupancy agreement, I believe, up to 60 days.
Mhm.
Beyond 60 days, you would actually have to have a full on lease in place.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's definitely a very unique situation, but a way to help your seller out.
Yeah, and absolutely. I'm just kind of shocked because on my last listing, we've got multiple offers, and there's definitely some realtors who never called me and asked, like, what's going on? What's the seller looking for?
Right.
And they just sent an offer. So I'm like, yeah, but you don't understand what my seller wants. Like, they want a quick closing or they want this. So I think that's important information for buyers out there to know who are shopping is like, make sure your real estate agent is making those conversations, like making those phone calls, having those conversations, and
Sure.
being an advocate for you, not just shooting some paper off and hoping that your offer sticks, because that's never going to win you an offer. You're going to be shopping for like months,
Yeah.
forever.
Excellent point, Diana. Yeah, and that's exactly what I do here as well. So even before we go to the first showing, I will call the real estate agent, and I will ask her, hey, can you tell me a little bit more about this property that wasn't in your original description? I try to dig as much as possible so that when I get to the house with my buyers, that I sound, well versed and know this house inside and out, right? To give them the best information at hand.
Mhm.
Um, and building that rapport with the seller's agent is so critical, because sometimes it is not always up to the best price in which you win the multiple offer. It's also based on relationship and then seller terms as well.
Yeah.
So, um, here we don't really, I think back in the days during COVID, a lot of people have done love letters.
Mhm.
We don't do that here anymore in Colorado. Actually, is seen as more of a negative connotation. What about you guys?
So when COVID first started, people were submitting love letters, and they were sometimes, maybe the seller was more inclined to sell it to them, but it's
Yeah,
actually against code of ethics to do that, because you're
yeah,
not supposed to talk about like if they're married or they're single or where they come
right,
from or what they do. So we don't submit love letters anymore. There's a lot of listings that will say no love letters allowed.
yeah,
But when you're having the conversation with an agent, you're just having a conversation. So you're
right,
building rapport, there's ways to like kind of sell your clients as being a strong buyer, or
sure,
someone
yeah,
who's going to close the deal. But of course, without
yeah.
breaking any code of ethics rules.
Yeah, I mean, we don't do that anymore, but I do, explain, who my buyers are in terms of, why they're a strong qualification for this
Yes.
property. So, I mean, I can say, my seller is, a first time home buyer.
Right.
She has lots of cash to put down. She can close quickly. She
Hmm.
can adhere to the seller's terms by either closing quickly or waiting for them to be ready to move out the property as well. So
Right.
it's just being flexible in this market, because
Hmm.
what we're seeing right now is even though we're just moving into February, we've already seen tons of multiple offers right now, and the
Yes.
market hasn't even really picked up yet.
No,
So
there's
at the end of last quarter, we were looking at days on the market upwards of 45, even 50 days in, some counties and areas too, right? Um,
yes.
but by the time we get into February, March, and even April, our days on the market in Colorado is between maybe 8 to 10 days. It could even be less than that.
Right. That's
It is a hot market here, and what I foresee, based on all the stats that's been put out there, is that we're probably going to have the same type of market as we had last year, just because we're so short on inventory. There's just not enough transaction to go around. At
mhm.
this point, I think our inventory will only last us about a month and a half, which is really, really nothing here.
Right.
And it just sounds like it's the same in all the metropolitan areas as well. So, is that the
Right.
same for you, Diana?
Absolutely. Even in Montgomery, so I try and stay more local to Somerset County area, but our weeks of supply is only about 2 weeks. And for a healthy inventory, you need 6 months of supply. So the
Yeah,
houses, like you're saying, a good house will go on the market if it's priced correctly, because price is a
yeah,
whole nother issue.
yeah.
They price it correctly. You have one weekend of showings, and then by Monday, they're all like already calling for best and final. So that's what's happening with the houses that are priced right. Now, there's definitely some people, which is a whole nother topic, where they price way too high and it sits too long. But that's very few. I think most of the people know that they've got to come price it correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think you alluded to something about relationships, but I think not only does your real estate agent and the selling agent, you have to have a good relationship, because they have to be able to communicate with each other throughout the whole process to make sure this deal goes through, is like the partners that you work with. So I don't know if you, Lila, have lenders and inspection aid
Mhm.
companies and things like that that you work with and you recommend, or no?
Yeah, absolutely. So I definitely have my preferred lenders. Obviously, the buyer can use whoever they want. And, I typically say the best lenders are the lenders that can communicate very well, right? So, you know, this going through a real estate transaction is such a time sensitive period. And you need somebody who can communicate with you every single day, but also not only on the weekdays, but also weekends. So I've done enough real estate deals, and I have one lender that I prefer to use, and literally I will be on his butt every single day, including weekends, because sometimes there's just issues that come up that needs to be addressed immediately. And if you don't have that lender partner who can communicate well, it might ruin the deal. The
Yeah.
deal will just, yeah.
Now, is your lender a local lender, or is he like a big chain person?
He is not a local lender, but he's not a big chain either. I've actually done a couple deals with him nationally.
Hmm.
He's done a couple of deals for me in Colorado, Florida, and Georgia.
Right.
And again, shop your lenders. He's a broker, so he has a book of investors and other lenders that can come up with the right program for you.
Hmm.
I would shop brokers, but I would also shop for national lenders as well. And maybe that's another topic that we can
I
dive
know
into
the
at a
list is
different.
growing.
Yeah,
Yeah, but I think definitely like the lender relationship is important. There's some lenders I've worked, like a lot of times clients have people that they want to work with or they've someone else referred them to. But I just want to always say I want to make sure your lender has a local appraiser. What kind of products are they offering you and what's your communication style like? Because it's so important that after an offer gets accepted and you're under contract, there's so many moving parts. And sometimes the client's, busy with packing and getting ready for the move. It's the lender, it's the real estate agent on both sides, it's the
mm-hmm.
attorneys, and sometimes even
And
title where we just
title. Yeah,
yeah, title where we have to make sure there's a lot of things moving around in the background, and having a solid team that could work together well is really important to just getting to that finish line.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, what do you think some of the tips that we can give to the sellers during this multiple offer period?
Oh man. To their benefit, it's a seller's market, so they have a little bit more leverage in terms of demanding things or wanting things. I think the most important tip is to listen to your real estate agent and do not price too high. When you price too high out of the box, people who are buying already know they need to offer either market value or a little bit higher. If you're already like way above their price point, they're not even going to bother looking at it because they're like, well, I could buy it for 800, but they already have it listed at 800, so I'm gonna not even look at it.
Yeah,
So I think that's my biggest tip: price it right.
absolutely. I think that's so critical because, like Diana said, it's to the seller's advantage right now because it is a seller's market. So make sure your house shows well. Make sure that, when the buyer is knocking on the door, that everything on the exterior looks good because remember, you never get a second chance to make that first impression, and that impression starts at the door.
Yeah,
But also to Diana's point as well on the pricing. So if you price it too high, and you have to start price improve it downwards, you will typically statistically saying, looking at all of the offers or all of the deals that have done price improvements, have lost about 20% off their bottom line.
yeah.
So instead of pricing too high, you might want to price it right at the fair market value or just slightly lower so that you can get the bidding process started.
Right. Because even though you might get that high value, you don't want to start at that max
Right.
because the buyers are smart. They're out there, they're looking, they know
Yes.
they have it all saved in their searches of what it listed for, what it sold for, and they're smart. They're savvy to what's out
Yep.
there.
Yep.
Um,
And
and
even in a multiple offer uh, environment, pricing it right is still critical. Just because we have no inventory doesn't mean that the buyers are just going to pay for anything, right? Buyers
yeah.
are very price sensitive at this point, especially given the interest rate.
Mhm.
So, even with the lack of inventory, as a seller, you have to price it right.
Right. And then to your point, Lila, like back when the interest rates were maybe 3% or like around that low, people were a little bit more open minded. Like they would say, like, okay, fine, I'll buy this house. I need to fix the bathroom. I need to like repaint the whole house and like fix all these holes. Right. But when you're above that 6%, or last year when we were like 7 and 8s, like
Yes.
they're still paying because they know the value's there in the house. There's no inventory, but they don't want to pay that money and then realize they when they move in, they need to spend another 30, $40,000 in renovation. So
Exactly.
that's why
So,
you got to present the house right too.
yeah, exactly, Diana. I think you got it all. So,
Yeah, awesome. Oh, I think, obviously if you guys have any questions about buying or selling or what's going on in the market or any additional tips, because there's some I just don't want to reveal for the whole internet to know. how to get an offer accepted, please reach out to Lila or myself. And I think maybe next week we could talk about like more about selling, tips to get the most value for, or best price for your home.
Right.
And yeah, and anything else, Lila?
Nothing. So again, we're both licensed agents in our respective market. My name is Lila Kaplan, and if you are looking for a experienced real estate agent to help you buy your first home or an investment property, give me a call at 347-497-2760. And Diana?
I'm Diana Andes. I'm in New Jersey, Somerset County area, or Middle Central Jersey, 908-812-1816. Or you can find me on Instagram, diana.housemadehome. All right, and but we'll put the details in the caption so you guys can easily find us. But thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll catch you next time on episode 6.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye.